Now that she's nice and smooth, I've got a nice place to work and I can start building. Yeehaw! Now I've got my beautiful shock that I don't want around my work area because I'm gonna fuck it up if it's around me. I really shouldn't be allowed near anything with nice paint and finish. But here I am, found myself in a position where I'm with this beautiful shock, doing a ton of welding, grinding, torching, throwing spatter and sparks everywhere. I don't want to fuck this shock up. So I'm just gonna build a temporary shock that I can use to make my mounts, and when all is said and done, we sneak the new shock in. No harm is done to it. So I gotta get my measurements correct and build myself a temporary shock. All right, now I've got a temporary shock. I'll set it down here about where I like it to be, and it looks real good. Just like that, I've got myself a nice thing going on. Do I want it all the way down? A little bit up? I can pretty much figure out where it's gonna be once I set it. Just make the other side duplicate. And it looks pretty good like that. That right there. So that right there is looking pretty good. Something like that I think is right about where I want it, so long as it's tilted in towards the frame. And it is. It's on a nice angle, leaning back. It's on a nice angle, leaning up into the truck. I gotta make sure there's enough room there to clear the frame, but I think there's plenty of room. Gotta make sure the bump stop on the bottom of the shock don't hit the top of the kingpin, but I think there's plenty of room for that too. That looks pretty good right there. I like everything about you, shock mount. I'm gonna weld you right there, and I don't care. I don't care, I'm gonna do it in my underwear. Where's my helmet? I'll weld you, I'm gonna weld you together. I don't even care what it says. I don't care about my tape measure. I don't care about feeding the dog. I don't care about nothing. I like that gap right there. I like the angle of this shaft, and I like the way it comes together. I don't need to know nothing about nothing else. Oh, son of a goddamn turnip-eating son of a bitch. Oh, it's all over the fucking place. I done fucked it all up. Son of a bitch. Just fucking weld it. Call it a goddamn day. Now that she's been properly welded, we can jump it over the Grand Canyon. Forgot to weld that side. What happens if I don't like it? I don't like it! I don't like it! Shut the fuck up and weld it, you dirty little duck. That bitch right there is pretty fucking nice. Think we should weld it together and worry about it later. There's what I think. Weld it together. All right. Now that's a permanent weld. Tack here, tack there, tack here, tack there. She done. That there's a thing of beauty. Now, just so you and I are on the same page, here's what's going on. This is not the real shock. This is just a pipe. But if times get tough and we need to trade our shocks for rent money, we could always ride around on steel pipes. Why not? Okay, here we go. Bottom of the shock gets a bump stop, rubber bump stop. I need a little clearance here. Got it. Bing, bang, boom, go. Good. I want my shock angled in towards the frame. It is slightly angled in towards the frame. I want my shock angled back as to give it a 45 here, 45 degree angle here between the shock shaft coming up and the frame rail, which is tilted up. Angled back so as when we're landing from a huge jump, The legs kicked out. The legs kicked out. You don't want your legs kicked in. That's how you fold under. You fold under. You don't apply proper pressure. You want to land nose down. And you want your legs kicked out. Kicking out towards the ground. Very good. Legs kicked out, just like a cat falling off a skyscraper. Ready to ride. All right, let's work on the top mount. I'm loving this. The bottom mount is beautiful. That's a thing of beauty right there. Let's get up to the top and build something here. Obviously, we're gonna have to trim that fender or throw it away. All right, what I've done here is I got rid of the inner fender, or outer fender, inner fender. I got rid of that giant fender that was in my way. Now there's lots of room for my head in here. I can get in here and think about what I'm gonna do next. I made my fake shock, right? I made my bottom mount. I tacked it in. But now I've got to make a shock hoop to go over this shock and bolt to. And it's very hard to figure out what you're going to do while you're trying to hold it in the right spot. So I've taken a piece of, I very carefully selected a piece of steel off my floor. And I welded it in here between the frame and my fake shock. And now I'm hands-free. Now it's where I want it to be. And all I have to do is come up with an idea of what I'm gonna make and get my measurements, and I'm gonna bend some tubes up, and I'm gonna make my upper shock mount. I love this. All this still has to go, but it can stay for now. One piece at a time, it all just disappears. Frame came out beautiful. What I've got here is plenty of room for my shock. 3.5 inches from the center of my shock to the frame. That gives me a good, 1.5 inches, inch and 3/4, 2 inches. What do I got here? 2 inches of clearance there in the frame rail. Of course, it hangs off the back a lot. That's fine. There's plenty of room for my reservoir here. Plenty of room for my bump stop down there. It's just in the perfect spot at the perfect angle. It's time to build something. I'm gonna go ahead and build a hoop. Something like that. That's my hoop right there. Perfect. Over the top, is that what we're doing? Yeah, probably over the top. Run some ears down to it. That looks real nice. I think that looks real good. Do you want it over the top? I mean, over the top would be the strongest. Do you want it behind it? Put an ear up off of it? Something behind it and run an ear up off of it? Over the top and behind it? And in front of it? Triple tubes, double tubes? What am I gonna do? I think something like that is gonna be pretty wild. That looks good. All right, I've got lots to do. I'll see you somewhere, someday. Maybe.